My father announced that only men could run his business and replaced me with my brother overnight, sending an email to all 47 construction company employees stating that Jake is now the CEO because a Peterson man must lead. I had just closed an $8 million contract with the city hall to build the new hospital, a negotiation that took 6 months, but my father said my brother would receive the credits because clients don't respect women in charge. The conference room fell silent as I read the company-wide email on my phone during our Monday morning meeting. 47 employees stared at their screens, watching my decade of work evaporate in a single paragraph. Jake sat across from me, leaning back in the chair that had been mine for 3 years, smirking while spinning a pen between his fingers. He hadn't attended a single client meeting in 5 years, preferred golfing over reviewing blueprints, and once asked me what rebar was during a site inspection. My father stood at the head of the table, arms crossed, waiting for my reaction like this was some test of feminine composure. I set my phone down carefully, the screen still glowing with his words, and watched Jake's smirk widen. He thought he'd won. Around the table, senior project managers avoided eye contact. Tom Harrison, who'd worked alongside me on the hospital bid, stared at his coffee cup. Elena Rodriguez, our chief architect, gripped her pen so hard her knuckles whitened. These people knew the truth. They'd watched me arrive at 5 a.m. to review contractor bids, seen me negotiate supply costs down by 18%, attended the presentations where I'd convinced city council members that Peterson Construction could deliver quality ahead of schedule. They'd also watched Jake stumble into the office at noon, reeking of whiskey, miss critical deadlines, and blame his failures on everyone else. But none of them would speak. Not with my father standing there, radiating the same stubborn pride that had built this company from nothing 40 years ago, and now threatened to destroy it. I was Thomas Peterson's daughter, the child who'd spent weekends on construction sites since age 7, who'd earned a civil engineering degree while Jake partied through a business major he never finished, who'd increased company revenue by 42% in 3 years. My father had promised me the company. He'd said those exact words the day I brought him the hospital contract. "This is your legacy now, Sarah. You've earned it." That was 6 days ago. Then he'd had dinner with his brother Marcus, my uncle who still thought women belonged in kitchens. And everything changed. The email arrived Sunday night. No phone call, no conversation, just cold corporate language stripping away my title, my authority, my future. Jake cleared his throat, breaking the silence. "So, Sarah, since you're now senior project manager again," he paused, savoring the demotion, "I'll need you to walk me through all active contracts. Start with that hospital thing you were working on, that hospital thing. The project that would cement Peterson Construction as the premier builder in the state. The contract I'd structured with performance incentives that would bring in an additional $2 million if we finished early. The deal that required navigating environmental regulations, union negotiations, and 3 city departments." Jake didn't even know the client's name. I smiled at him. Actually smiled. The expression felt strange on my face, but I held it while reaching into my briefcase. "Of course, Jake. I prepared a complete transition folder for you." I slid a thick binder across the table. Every active project, every client contact, every pending decision. You'll find it all thoroughly documented. My father's eyes narrowed slightly. He'd expected tears, or rage, or pleading. Instead, I was cooperating. Jake grabbed the binder without looking at it, too busy basking in his new authority. He had no idea that binder contained only surface information, the kind of details any competent CEO could find in our project management software. The real knowledge, the relationships I'd built, the handshake agreements that made projects run smoothly, the promises I'd made about quality and timeline, those existed in my memory and in the trust I'd earned. Trust that evaporated the moment my father's email declared a Peterson man was in charge. "Glad you're being professional about this, sweetheart," my father said, using the diminutive he knew I hated. "Shows maturity." I gathered my things slowly, deliberately. Let them think I was defeated. Let them believe this was over. I'd spent 10 years learning every aspect of this business, including the parts my father thought I didn't notice. The shortcuts Jake took on the Riverside project that resulted in foundation cracks we'd quietly repaired. The bribes my uncle Marcus had paid to inspectors before I'd cleaned up our practices. The second set of books my father kept in his office safe, the ones that showed exactly how much profit he'd skimmed from certain projects. I knew where every body was buried. Literally and figuratively. Peterson Construction had built its reputation on my work, but it had survived on secrets I'd spent years cataloging, waiting for the day I might need leverage. That day had arrived sooner than expected. As I walked toward the door, Elena caught my eye. She looked devastated, like she wanted to say something. I shook my head slightly. Not yet. Tom Harrison's jaw was clenched, his face red with suppressed anger. He'd turned down a position at Morrison Brothers Construction to stay with me, believing in the future I'd promised. Now he was watching it disintegrate. I'd need him soon, but first I needed everyone to believe I'd accepted defeat. "Sarah," my father called as I reached the door. "You'll still have an office. Just move your things to the one by the supply closet. Jake needs the executive suite. The office by the supply closet. 10 feet by 12 feet. No windows. Smelling perpetually of paint thinner and drywall dust. The office where we'd put the summer intern last year." I turned back, still smiling. "Perfect. I'll move this afternoon." Jake laughed, actually laughed, as if my humiliation was the funniest thing he'd witnessed. My father nodded approvingly, satisfied that his daughter knew her place. Neither of them noticed Elena's sudden sharp intake of breath, or how Tom Harrison's hand had moved to his phone under the table. They couldn't see what was beginning, the cracks forming in the foundation they'd just poured. I'd built this company's reputation one careful decision at a time. I could dismantle it just as methodically. The hospital contract was scheduled to break ground in 30 days. The city was counting on us. The architectural plans were approved, the permits secured, the subcontractors lined up. Everything was ready for a flawless execution that would showcase Peterson Construction's capabilities and open doors to projects 3 times larger. Mayor Davidson had personally shaken my hand, telling me this would be my moment, that everyone was watching to see if we could deliver what I'd promised. Jake couldn't manage a lemonade stand, let alone coordinate an $8 million construction project. And I wasn't going to help him learn. Let the Peterson man lead. Let's see how far he gets before everything collapses. I moved my belongings to the storage closet office that afternoon, carrying boxes past employees who suddenly found their computer screens fascinating. The space was exactly as degrading as intended. A metal desk with one wobbly leg, a filing cabinet that wouldn't lock, fluorescent lighting that hummed like angry wasps. My father wanted me to quit. He'd made that clear when he'd handed me the new organizational chart showing Jake's name in the bold font at the top, mine buried 3 levels down. I wasn't quitting. I unpacked slowly, arranging files with deliberate precision. The company directory went in the top drawer. My personal notebook, the one containing 10 years of observations, went in the locked briefcase under the desk. My laptop connected to the company server using the senior project manager credentials I still possessed. Nobody had thought to revoke my access to anything. Why would they? I was cooperating, being professional, accepting my demotion with grace. Jake's first executive decision arrived via email 30 minutes later. "Team meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. All senior staff required. We're going to discuss my vision for the hospital project." His vision. The man who'd asked me last month what a load-bearing wall was now had a vision. Elena appeared in my doorway, closing the door behind her. "This is insane, Sarah. You know Jake can't handle the hospital project. The concrete pour alone requires coordinating 6 different contractors across 4 phases. He doesn't even understand the timeline." "I know." I continued organizing papers, not looking up. "So what are we supposed to do? Watch him destroy everything we've built?" Now I met her eyes. Elena Rodriguez had worked with me for 7 years. She was brilliant, meticulous, and utterly disgusted by what my father had done. "You're going to attend Jake's meeting tomorrow. You're going to listen to his vision. And you're going to document every single decision he makes." She studied my face. "You're planning something." "I'm following orders. I'm a senior project manager now, reporting to CEO Jake Peterson. Whatever he decides is his responsibility." I pulled out a specific folder from my briefcase, one labeled Hospital Project, Foundation Specifications. "When Jake asks for information tomorrow, give it to him. Don't offer advice he doesn't request. Don't correct his mistakes. Just answer his direct questions." Elena took the folder, understanding spreading across her face. "The specs in here are correct, completely accurate. Every measurement, every material grade, every safety requirement exactly as approved by the city." I paused. Of course, Jake will need to understand how to read engineering specifications, and how foundation depth calculations work, and why soil composition reports matter. But that's not our job anymore. We're not executives. We just follow orders. She left with the folder, and I turned back to my computer. The hospital project had 17 critical decision points before groundbreaking. Jake would have to navigate every single one. He'd need to approve subcontractor bids, confirm material deliveries, coordinate with city inspectors, manage the construction timeline, and interface with Mayor Davidson's office. Any competent CEO who'd been involved from the beginning could handle it. Jake had been on a golf course in Scottsdale when I'd negotiated the contract. My phone buzzed. Tom Harrison's text was brief. "Are we really letting him do this?" I typed back, "He's the CEO. It's his project now." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, Understood. Tom was smart. He'd figure out what I wasn't saying. The entire senior team would. They'd watch Jake flail, and they'd do exactly what he told them to do. Nothing more. No guidance, no suggestions, no saving him from himself. My father wanted a Peterson man to lead. He'd get exactly that. The next morning, Jake's vision meeting revealed itself to be an exercise in spectacular incompetence. He'd printed the wrong blueprints, mixing the hospital's third-floor plan with specifications from an office building we'd completed 2 years ago. He'd confused the project timeline, announcing we'd break ground in 3 weeks instead of 4, shaving 7 critical days off the schedule. He'd also decided we should use cheaper concrete to increase profit margins, apparently unaware that the concrete specifications were part of our approved city contract. The foundation depth seems excessive, Jake announced, pointing at numbers he clearly didn't understand. We can probably cut that by 20% and save costs. Elena kept her face neutral. The foundation depth was calculated based on the soil composition report and the building's projected weight load. The city engineering department approved those specifications. Yeah, but I'm saying we can probably go shallower. Buildings don't need foundations that deep. It's overkill. Every engineer in the room knew that shallow foundations under a 6-story hospital would create catastrophic structural problems. Every engineer in the room remained silent, waiting to see if Jake would actually make this decision official. If you want to modify the foundation depth, Elena said carefully, you'll need to submit revised specifications to the city for approval. That typically takes 4 to 6 weeks. Jake waved his hand dismissively. We don't have time for that. We're breaking ground in 3 weeks. I'll approve the shallower foundation. Just update the contractor bids. Tom Harrison's pen stopped moving across his notepad. He looked at me. I looked at my hands, folded calmly in my lap. Jake had just made his first official decision as CEO, one that violated our city contract and would result in rejected inspection reports the moment we started digging. The hospital project would face immediate delays, potential legal action from the city, and possible contract cancellation. All because the new CEO didn't understand basic civil engineering. My father sat at Jake's right hand, nodding approvingly. He'd taught Jake to project confidence, to make bold decisions, to trust his instincts. He hadn't taught him the difference between confidence and competence. The meeting continued for 90 minutes. Jake made 6 more decisions, each one worse than the last. He cut the project management software subscription to save money, not realizing it was how we coordinated 47 different contractors. He moved the material delivery schedule up by 2 weeks, not understanding that concrete delivery timing was critical for proper curing. He announced he'd personally handle communication with Mayor Davidson's office, despite never having met the mayor. When he finally dismissed everyone, Tom lingered. Sarah, we need to talk. Not here. I gathered my things, nodding toward the parking lot. We met by my car, far enough from the building that security cameras wouldn't catch our conversation. Tom's face was flushed with anger. He's going to destroy the hospital project. Those foundation changes alone will get us shut down. Yes, and you're just going to let it happen? I unlocked my car, tossing my briefcase into the passenger seat. Jake is the CEO. He makes the decisions now. I'm just a senior project manager. My job is to implement his vision. His vision is catastrophic. Then maybe the company shouldn't have a CEO who doesn't understand basic construction principles. I met Tom's eyes directly. My father made his choice. He wanted a Peterson man leading this company. He's going to get exactly what he asked for. Understanding dawned slowly. You're documenting everything. I'm being a professional employee, following the CEO's directives and maintaining detailed project records. Standard procedure. I climbed into my car. By the way, Morrison Brothers Construction called me yesterday. They're looking for a chief operating officer. Someone with municipal contract experience. I told them I wasn't interested, but I gave them your name. Hope you don't mind. Tom's expression shifted from confusion to comprehension. Sarah. You have a family, Tom. Mortgage, 2 kids starting college. You shouldn't go down with a sinking ship out of loyalty. I started the engine, especially when the captain deliberately steered us toward the rocks. I drove away, leaving Tom standing in the parking lot. He'd make his own decision, but I'd given him the exit route. Elena would get one too. The good people, the talented people who'd built this company's reputation, they deserved better than watching Jake Peterson run it into the ground while my father applauded. The hospital project was scheduled to break ground in 26 days. Jake had just cut that to 19 and made engineering decisions that would violate our contract. He'd need to submit revised plans to the city, which he hadn't done. He'd need to notify the mayor's office of timeline changes, which he didn't know was required. He'd need to coordinate the accelerated schedule with 17 different subcontractors, none of whom had his contact information. I'd spent 6 months building relationships with every person involved in this project. The city planning director knew my cell phone number. The union representative trusted my word. The concrete supplier gave us preferred pricing because I'd never missed a payment in 3 years. All of those relationships existed because of me, not because of Peterson Construction's name. And I wasn't going to transfer them to Jake. That evening, I received an email from Mayor Davidson's assistant. The mayor would like to schedule a check-in meeting regarding the hospital project timeline. Please confirm your availability for next week. I forwarded the email to Jake with a brief note. FYI, mayor's office requesting meeting. This is now your responsibility as CEO. Jake's response came 30 minutes later. You handle it. Tell them everything's on track. I smiled at my laptop screen. He'd just given me written documentation that he was delegating communication with our primary client, the same client he'd announced in today's meeting that he'd personally handle. I replied, per your directive in this morning's meeting, you indicated you would personally manage communication with the mayor's office. Please advise if this has changed. The response took longer this time. Fine. Set up the meeting. I'll take care of it. I scheduled the meeting for next Tuesday, 11 a.m. Jake would meet Mayor Davidson for the first time, having never reviewed the contract details, never attended any of the 6 preliminary meetings, never learned what specific outcomes the mayor had emphasized. He'd walk into that meeting blind, representing an $8 million project he didn't understand, discussing engineering specifications he couldn't explain. Meanwhile, I'd be in my storage closet office, maintaining detailed records of every decision, every directive, every failure. My father wanted a Peterson man to lead. Perfect. Let him lead us straight off the cliff. I'd be there to document the fall, provide evidence to our insurance company, and ensure everyone knew exactly who was responsible when everything collapsed. Jake's meeting with Mayor Davidson lasted 17 minutes before complete disaster struck. I knew because Elena texted me from outside the mayor's office where she'd gone as the technical support Jake had demanded that morning. Her message was brief. He called the mayor Mike and asked if we could use cheaper materials to maximize taxpayer value. Mayor's face went purple. Mayor Davidson's full name was Michelle Davidson, a detail anyone who'd read the contract would know. She was also intensely protective of the hospital project, having campaigned on improving healthcare infrastructure. Suggesting cheaper materials for a public hospital was like suggesting we poison the water supply. The fallout arrived 2 hours later via certified letter to the company. Mayor Davidson's office was formally requesting a comprehensive review of all Peterson construction qualifications and project plans before proceeding with groundbreaking. The letter specifically mentioned concerning gaps in executive leadership's understanding of contracted specifications and troubling suggestions regarding material quality compromises. My father stormed into Jake's office, his voice carrying through the walls. What the hell did you say to Mayor Davidson? I was trying to save money. Show fiscal responsibility. You insulted her intelligence and questioned her project. We have a signed contract. Well, Sarah should have briefed me better. The blame landed exactly where I'd expected. My father appeared in my closet office doorway 3 minutes later, face red, jaw clenched. Sarah, you were supposed to prepare Jake for that meeting. I looked up from my computer, where I'd been documenting today's events with timestamps and direct quotes. I wasn't informed I should prepare him. Jake stated in Monday's meeting that he would personally handle communication with the mayor's office. I assumed he was prepared. You knew he wasn't ready. I'm a senior project manager now, not the CEO. Jake makes executive decisions. I implement them. I returned my attention to my screen. If you'd like me to resume my previous responsibilities, perhaps we should discuss modifying the organizational structure. My father's expression shifted between rage and calculation. He wanted to yell, but anything he said would acknowledge he'd made a mistake promoting Jake. Just fix this. Call the mayor's office. Smooth things over. I don't have authority to represent the company in executive communications anymore. That's Jake's responsibility as CEO. I pulled up the email chain. Here's where he confirmed he would personally manage the mayor relationship. I documented it per standard protocol. The silence stretched. My father had built this company through stubbornness and force of will. But he'd never been stupid. He was beginning to understand the corner he'd backed himself into. If he overruled Jake now, it would prove his son was incompetent. If he forced me to fix Jake's mistakes, it would prove I should have kept my position. Either way, his decision to replace me with Jake looked catastrophic. Schedule a meeting with the mayor, he finally said. All 3 of us. Tomorrow. Mayor Davidson's office indicated they need time to review our qualifications. I doubt they'll meet with us tomorrow. I pulled up the official letter. They've requested complete documentation of Jake's experience and education relevant to managing municipal construction projects. Do you want me to compile that information? Another long silence. Jake's experience consisted of a dropped-out business degree and 5 years of showing up late to an office where he played computer solitaire. His education in construction was non-existent. Any documentation would make that painfully obvious to the mayor's office. I'll handle it, my father said finally, retreating. I returned to my documentation. The hospital project was now officially under review, 3 weeks before scheduled groundbreaking. Every day of delay would cost us money in contractor retainer fees and equipment rental. Worse, the mayor's letter had been copied to the city council, meaning Jake's incompetence was now public record. Other municipalities considering Peterson construction for future projects would see it. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Ms. Peterson, this is Jennifer Morrison from Morrison Brothers Construction. Tom Harrison suggested I reach out. Would you be available for a confidential conversation regarding a potential executive position? Morrison Brothers was our primary competitor, the company that had bid against us for the hospital contract. They'd lost because I'd outmaneuvered them on price and timeline. Now they were offering me a job, and they weren't being subtle about it. They'd seen the mayor's letter. They knew Peterson Construction was imploding. They wanted me to jump ship before the company sank. I didn't respond, not yet, but I saved the message. Elena knocked on my doorframe. Sarah? We have a problem. Jake approved the concrete order using the modified foundation depth specifications. The supplier is confused because those specs don't match our city permits. Did you inform Jake about the discrepancy? I tried. He said I was being difficult and told me to just place the order. I pulled out my notebook, documenting this in detail. Then place the order exactly as Jake specified. Make sure you have his written approval. But Sarah, the city inspectors will reject it immediately. Yes. They will. I met her eyes. And when they do, it will be Jake's decision that caused the rejection, not yours. Document everything, save every email, record every directive he gives you. Elena understood. She'd watched my father declare that only men could lead this company. Now she was watching that man's son systematically destroy everything I'd built. Morrison Brothers contacted me too, offered me senior architect position. You should take it. What about you? I'm staying. I closed my notebook. Someone needs to be here to document exactly how this ends. The next morning, Jake held another team meeting. His confidence had returned overnight, bolstered by whatever reassurances my father had provided. Okay, team, here's the plan. We're going to show Mayor Davidson that Peterson Construction delivers results. We're breaking ground next Monday. Review be damned. Tom Harrison's head snapped up. We're under official review. Breaking ground without clearance would violate our contract. The contract says we start construction in 19 days. That's what we're doing. The contract also says we comply with all city oversight requirements. The review is city oversight. Jake's jaw tightened. He hated being questioned, especially by people who actually understood the business. Are you refusing to follow my directive? The room held its breath. Tom looked at me. I kept my expression neutral, offering nothing. This was his decision. No, Tom said finally. I'll document your directive and implement as ordered. Good. Sarah, you'll coordinate with contractors for Monday's groundbreaking ceremony. The groundbreaking ceremony has been postponed pending the mayor's review. I'm unpostponing it. Make it happen. I wrote this down in my notebook, making sure everyone could see me documenting his order. To be clear, you're directing me to schedule a groundbreaking ceremony that contradicts the mayor's office's explicit request for a project review pause? That's exactly what I'm saying. Perfect. He'd just given me written documentation of deliberate contract violation. I pulled out my phone and sent a quick email to myself with the timestamp and exact quote. I'll begin coordination immediately. After the meeting, I made exactly one phone call to Mayor Davidson's assistant. This is Sarah Peterson. I need to inform you that Peterson Construction's CEO has directed us to proceed with the scheduled groundbreaking on Monday, despite the requested review period. I wanted to ensure the mayor's office was aware of this decision. The assistant's voice went cold. The mayor was very clear about the review requirement. Yes, ma'am, I'm just following my CEO's directives and ensuring proper communication. I paused. I've documented this decision in writing if the mayor's office requires evidence of who made this call. Please hold. 30 seconds later, Mayor Davidson herself came on the line. Her voice was sharp enough to cut steel. Ms. Peterson, are you telling me your CEO intends to violate a direct request from this office? Yes, Mayor Davidson. Jake Peterson has ordered us to proceed with groundbreaking Monday morning. I wanted to make sure you were informed. Put your CEO on the phone. Now. Of course. I walked to Jake's office, knocked once, and handed him my phone. Mayor Davidson for you. Jake took the phone confidently, not recognizing the trap closing around him. Mayor Davidson, great to hear from you. Listen, about this review thing. I stepped outside but stayed close enough to hear his side of the conversation. It deteriorated rapidly. Well, yes, but the schedule. No, I understand, but I'm trying to show leadership. What do you mean, investigation? He hung up 2 minutes later, his face pale. Through the window, I watched him immediately pick up his office phone and call our father. The conversation was brief and explosive. My father appeared in Jake's doorway within minutes. What did you do? My father's voice carried through the entire office. I just wanted to show we could deliver. You just got us flagged for a compliance investigation. The city is reviewing whether we're fit to hold the contract. Sarah told them I was moving forward. She sabotaged me. Both of them turned to look at my office. I was sitting calmly at my desk, typing away at my computer. Through the glass partition, I could see their faces contorting with rage and realization. I'd done exactly what Jake had ordered, communicated with the mayor's office. I'd been professional, factual, and precise. I'd simply informed the client about the CEO's decision. The fact that his decision was catastrophically stupid wasn't my fault. My father strode into my office. You deliberately made Jake look bad. I followed his direct order to coordinate groundbreaking activities. Informing the mayor's office of our plans is standard procedure. You knew she'd react badly. I knew the mayor had requested a review pause. Jake knew it too when he ordered me to proceed anyway. I pulled up the email chain. Here's the documentation. Would you like me to forward it to you? My father's hands clenched into fists. For a moment, I thought he might actually hit me. Instead, he leaned across my desk, voice low and dangerous. You're trying to destroy this company. No. I met his eyes without flinching. You did that when you decided a Peterson man should lead it. I'm just documenting the results. The compliance investigation moved faster than expected. The city sent 3 inspectors Tuesday afternoon, requesting immediate access to all project documentation, communication records, and executive qualification files. Jake tried to delay them, claiming he needed time to organize materials. That lasted exactly as long as it took for the lead inspector to threaten contract cancellation. I provided them with everything. 10 years of meticulously maintained records, all organized, indexed, and cross-referenced. They spent 6 hours in the conference room, reviewing my documentation of every decision Jake had made since becoming CEO. The modified foundation specifications, the accelerated timeline, the canceled project management software, the inappropriate comments to Mayor Davidson, his complete lack of relevant experience or education. When they finished, the lead inspector asked to speak with me privately. We met in my storage closet office, him sitting in the single visitor chair while reviewing his notes. Ms. Peterson, these records are remarkably thorough. I believe in proper documentation. I noticed that prior to 2 weeks ago, all project decisions were logged under your name. Then suddenly, everything shifts to Jake Peterson's authority. He looked up, with a corresponding decline in decision quality. Jake was promoted to CEO. Company leadership decisions changed accordingly. The inspector studied my face for a long moment. You were the one who negotiated the original hospital contract. Yes. And you're the one who managed the relationship with Mayor Davidson's office. Yes. But you're no longer in a leadership position. Correct. My father decided the company needed a male CEO. He wrote something in his notes. For what it's worth, Ms. Peterson, your documentation may be the only thing that saves this contract. The city understands the difference between institutional failure and individual incompetence. He stood. The mayor will make a final decision by Friday. If Peterson Construction retains the contract, it will be contingent on appropriate executive oversight. I understand. He paused at the door. Morrison Brothers submitted a bid to take over the project if your contract is canceled. They've offered to honor your original timeline and specifications. Another meaningful pause. They've also offered you a position as project director. I know. Are you planning to take it? That depends on what happens by Friday. He nodded slowly and left. Through my office window, I watched him deliver the news to my father and Jake. Their expressions shifted from defensive to panicked as he explained the city's position. The hospital contract was worth $8 million. Losing it would be catastrophic. Worse, if the contract moved to Morrison Brothers with me as director, it would prove definitively that I'd been the only reason Peterson Construction had won the bid in the first place. My father would have to admit he'd been wrong, in front of the entire company, in front of the entire industry. That evening, my father appeared at my apartment door. I'd been expecting him, though not this soon. He looked like he'd aged 5 years in 2 weeks. Can I come in? I stepped aside, letting him enter the small living room. He looked around at the sparse furniture, the bare walls, I'd never bothered decorating much, too busy building his company. "You're destroying everything I built," he said finally. "No. I'm documenting what happens when you hand everything you built to someone unqualified." I remained standing. "You taught me that, actually. You used to say the numbers never lie. That documentation protects you. That records matter. You could have helped him, guided him, like you helped me, guided me." The anger I'd suppressed for 2 weeks finally cracked through. I spent 10 years proving myself. I increased revenue by 42%. I won contracts against companies twice our size. I built relationships across this entire city, and you threw it away because Uncle Marcus said women can't lead. This isn't about Marcus. Then what is it about? Because it's not about competence. It's not about results. It's not about what's best for the company. I pulled out my phone, showing him Morrison Brothers' offer. I have a better job waiting. More money, more authority, no glass ceiling. The only reason I'm still here is to make sure everyone knows exactly what you did. My father's face reddened. "So this is revenge?" "No, this is consequences." I pocketed my phone. "You made a choice. Jake is the CEO because he's a Peterson man. Now live with it. The city is going to cancel our contract. Probably. The company will lose millions. Definitely. Other clients will hear about it. We'll lose future bids. Without question." I finally sat down, suddenly exhausted. "You built something great, Dad. You really did, but you destroyed it the moment you decided your daughter wasn't good enough because she wasn't your son." He sat down across from me, looking older than I'd ever seen him. I thought I was doing the right thing, keeping it in the family. Peterson men have run this company for 40 years, and in 2 weeks, a Peterson man ran it into the ground. We sat in silence. Outside, Portland's evening traffic hummed past. Somewhere in this city, Mayor Davidson was reviewing the inspector's report, making the decision that would determine Peterson Construction's future. Morrison Brothers was probably already preparing their takeover bid. Tom Harrison was updating his resume. Elena was packing her office. "If I make you CEO again," my father said quietly, "will you stay?" I'd been waiting for this. The desperate offer, the last-minute reversal. 2 weeks ago, I would have taken it immediately. Now, I just felt tired. And how long until the next time? Until another client questions having a woman in charge? Until Uncle Marcus whispers in your ear again? I shook my head. "You can't unring this bell, Dad. Everyone knows now. They know you don't believe in me. They know you'll throw me aside the moment it's convenient. That's not, it is. And we both know it." I stood up, walking to the door. "Morrison Brothers believes in me. They're offering me full authority, equity stake, and public credit for my work. Why would I stay with a company where my own father doesn't trust me?" He stood slowly, understanding that he'd lost. Not just the hospital contract, not just the company's reputation, but his daughter. "Sarah, please. The city will make their decision Friday. Whatever happens, happens." I opened the door. "You wanted a Peterson man to lead. Congratulations. I hope it was worth it." He left without another word. I closed the door and leaned against it, finally allowing myself to feel the weight of the last 2 weeks. I'd systematically documented my brother's failure, knowing it would likely destroy the company my father had built. I'd maneuvered and manipulated and waited for Jake to hang himself with his own incompetence. I'd orchestrated this entire collapse with the precision I used to bring to construction projects, and I felt no guilt whatsoever. Friday arrived with gray Portland rain and an email from the city at 9 a.m. sharp. Peterson Construction's contract for the hospital project was officially terminated, effective immediately. The termination letter cited fundamental failures in executive competence, violations of communication protocols, and inability to demonstrate qualified project leadership. It was copied to every city department, the city council, and would be public record. Morrison Brothers Construction was awarded the contract within 2 hours, with an addendum noting that Sarah Peterson would serve as project director with full authority over execution. I drafted my resignation letter while sitting in my storage closet office one last time. 2 sentences. Effective immediately, I am resigning from Peterson Construction. Thank you for the opportunity. I printed it, signed it, and walked it to my father's office. He was sitting at his desk, staring at the termination letter on his computer screen. Jake stood by the window looking shell-shocked. They both turned when I entered. "The hospital contract is gone," my father said flatly. "Yes. And you're taking it with you." I placed my resignation letter on his desk. "Morrison Brothers is taking it. I'm just doing what I've always done, managing construction projects competently." Jake finally found his voice. "You sabotaged us. You made me look bad on purpose. I turned to him slowly. I did exactly what you told me to do. Every single decision was yours. Every disaster was your directive. I just documented it. I smiled without warmth. You wanted to be CEO. You got to be CEO. This is what happens when an unqualified person leads a company. You could have helped me. Why? So you could take credit like you took credit for the hospital contract I negotiated? I shook my head. You wanted the title. You got it. I hope it was everything you dreamed. My father stood up. Sarah, this will destroy us. Yes, it will. I picked up my briefcase, taking one last look at the office where I'd spent so many hours planning, negotiating, building. You made your choice, Dad. You chose Jake because he's a man. Now you get to live with a man's failures. Please, the word came out broken. Don't do this. I'm not doing anything except accepting a better job offer. I walked to the door, then paused. By the way, 3 of our senior staff are also joining Morrison Brothers: Tom Harrison, Elena Rodriguez, and Mike Chen. They were tired of working for a company that promotes incompetence over excellence. The color drained from my father's face. Losing me was bad. Losing our senior project manager, chief architect, and structural engineer simultaneously was catastrophic. Peterson Construction couldn't bid on major projects without that expertise. The Riverside Mall contract is up for renewal next month, I continued. Morrison Brothers will be bidding. So will we, I assume. It should be interesting to see who the client trusts more, the company with a proven track record, or the company that just lost an $8 million municipal contract due to executive incompetence. I didn't wait for a response. I walked out through the main office, past 47 employees who watched in silence. Some looked devastated. Some looked resigned. A few looked angry. None of them tried to stop me. They'd all seen the emails, heard the meetings, watched Jake's failures compound. They knew exactly why this was happening. Elena met me at my car, her own boxes already loaded. Tom and Mike are right behind us. We're all starting Monday. Good. I unlocked my car, loading my single box of personal items. Morrison Brothers has the hospital project, but they'll need a full team to execute it properly. Sarah. Elena's voice was soft. Are you okay? I thought about it. 2 weeks ago, I'd been CEO of my family's company, running the biggest project of my career. Now I was unemployed, had destroyed my relationship with my father, and had engineered the systematic collapse of everything he'd built. I'm perfect, I said, and meant it. Morrison Brothers Construction's offices occupied 3 floors of a modern building with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Willamette River. My new office was twice the size of my father's, with actual furniture that didn't wobble and lighting that didn't hum. Jennifer Morrison, the CEO, personally showed me around Monday morning. We've been trying to recruit you for 3 years, she said as we walked past the engineering department. When Tom Harrison called, I couldn't believe you were finally available. I wasn't available before. I was trying to build my father's company. I looked out at the city skyline. Turns out he didn't want it built. His loss, our gain. She handed me a thick folder. Hospital project documents. We've got 4 weeks to reconstruct your original timeline and reassure the mayor's office that we can deliver. I'm putting you in complete control. No oversight, no second guessing, no male CEO undercutting your authority. I opened the folder, seeing my own work reflected back at me. My specifications, my contractor relationships, my negotiated terms. Morrison Brothers had literally taken my contract and copied it verbatim. You know I designed this entire project. That's exactly why we hired you. You know the work, you know the client, you know the pitfalls. Jennifer smiled. And frankly, watching you systematically document your brother's incompetence was impressive. Those records you provided to the city inspectors were masterful. I believe in thorough documentation. So, I've heard. She leaned against the window frame. Peterson Construction is already facing lawsuits from 2 subcontractors who are demanding payment for work your brother canceled. Apparently, he didn't understand contract law. Jake didn't understand much of anything. The industry is talking. Everyone knows what happened. Your father's reputation is destroyed. She paused. Does that bother you? I thought about my father's face when I'd handed him my resignation. The shock. The betrayal. The desperate plea for me to stay. I thought about Jake's smug expression when he'd taken my office, my title, my project. I thought about the email announcing that only a Peterson man could lead. No, I said simply. It doesn't. The hospital project moved forward with mechanical precision. I spent the first week rebuilding relationships with every contractor, inspector, and city official involved. Most of them had worked with me before and were relieved to see me back in charge. Mayor Davidson personally called to welcome me to Morrison Brothers and to express her satisfaction that qualified leadership was now managing the project. Tom, Elena, and Mike integrated seamlessly into their new positions. By week 3, we'd recovered the entire timeline Jake had destroyed. The foundation specifications were corrected, the contractors realigned, the permits properly filed. We broke ground on schedule with Mayor Davidson and the entire city council present, celebrating not just the hospital but the return of competent project management. The local business journal ran a feature story, Sarah Peterson's Second Chance, How One Woman's Determination Saved the Portland Hospital Project. The article detailed everything: my father's decision to replace me with Jake, Jake's systematic failures, the contract cancellation, my move to Morrison Brothers. My father refused to comment. Jake couldn't be reached. Peterson Construction's office building had a for lease sign 6 weeks after I left. My father called me once during that time. It was late evening, 3 months after I'd walked out. "The company is bankrupt," he said without preamble. "I know, it's public record." "Jake." His voice cracked. "Jake moved to Arizona, said he can't show his face here anymore. Probably smart. Sarah, Long pause. "I was wrong." "Yes, you were. Can you forgive me?" I looked out my apartment window at the Portland skyline, at the city where I'd spent a decade building a reputation that my father had tried to strip away. "I don't know, Dad. Can you forgive yourself for throwing away something great because of pride and prejudice?" He didn't answer. The silence stretched until he finally hung up. I didn't call back. The hospital project finished 2 months ahead of schedule and $400,000 under budget. Mayor Davidson held a ribbon-cutting ceremony with full media coverage. Jennifer Morrison gave a speech crediting the success to exceptional project leadership and engineering excellence. When the mayor asked me to say a few words, I kept it brief. This hospital represents what's possible when qualified people are trusted to do their jobs, when expertise matters more than gender, when competence is valued over tradition. I looked directly at the camera, knowing my father was probably watching. I'm grateful to Morrison Brothers for giving me the opportunity to prove what I've always known, that I'm exactly as capable as I always said I was. The applause was deafening. That evening, Tom, Elena, Mike, and I celebrated at a downtown restaurant. We toasted to the project's success, to new beginnings, to working for a company that valued talent. "Your father showed up at the office last week," Tom said quietly. "Asked if we were hiring. Said he had 40 years of construction experience." I set down my glass. "What did Jennifer say?" "She told him we only hire qualified candidates." Tom grinned. "Then she suggested he ask his son for a reference." I laughed, actually laughed for the first time in months. The image of my father, the man who'd built an empire through sheer stubbornness, being told he wasn't qualified by the company his daughter now helped lead, was too perfect. "What happened to him?" Elena asked. "After the bankruptcy?" "Last I heard, he's working as a site supervisor for a small residential contractor. Union job, hourly wage." I shrugged. "It's honest work. Maybe he'll learn something." "And Jake?" "Arizona, apparently. Selling insurance or cars or something. Whatever job doesn't require actual competence." We sat in silence for a moment, contemplating the absolute destruction of Peterson Construction. 40 years of building, gone in 6 months because of one catastrophically stupid decision. Some might call it tragic. I called it justice. "Do you ever regret it?" Mike asked. "The way it ended?" I thought about the storage closet office, the dismissive treatment, the email announcing I wasn't good enough because of my gender. I thought about Jake's smirk and my father's approval and my Uncle Marcus's satisfaction. I thought about 10 years of work thrown away for masculine pride. "Not even a little bit," I said. "They made their choice. I just made sure everyone saw the consequences." My phone buzzed with an email from Jennifer Morrison. "Seattle Children's Hospital Expansion Project. $23 million. Client specifically requested you as project director. Interested?" I showed the team. Elena whistled. $23 million. That's nearly triple the Portland hospital. That's what happens when you build a reputation for excellence instead of nepotism. I typed back a single word. Absolutely. The Seattle project would take 2 years. Then there would be others. Bigger projects, higher profile, more responsibility. I'd build a career that had nothing to do with my father's name, proving every day that the daughter he'd dismissed was exactly as competent as she'd claimed. Meanwhile, Peterson Construction's bankruptcy would serve as a cautionary tale in business schools. My father's decision to replace qualified leadership with gendered nepotism would be analyzed in management classes. Jake's failures would be case studies in the importance of expertise. And I would be the woman who documented it all, who'd stood back and watched them destroy themselves, who'd walked away and built something better. My father wanted a Peterson man to lead his company. He got one. And that man burned everything to the ground while I stood there with a fire extinguisher I chose not to use. Some people might call that cruel. I call it accountability. The Peterson name used to mean quality construction in Portland. Now it meant cautionary tale. My father used to be respected in the industry. Now he was pitied, the man who'd destroyed his own legacy for outdated pride. And me? I was Sarah Peterson, project director at Morrison Brothers Construction, the woman who turned down 8 figures worth of projects and had clients requesting her by name. Not bad for someone who was told she wasn't good enough. 2 years later, I stood in the completed Seattle Children's Hospital, watching sick kids explore the bright, cheerful corridors I'd helped design. Mayor Davidson of Portland had driven up for the opening ceremony, bringing news. "Your father asked me to give you something." She handed me an envelope. Inside was a single handwritten note. "You were right. I'm sorry, Dad." I folded it carefully and put it in my pocket. Maybe someday I'd respond. Maybe someday I'd forgive him. But not today. Today, I had a $23 million project completion to celebrate, a career that was entirely my own, and a reputation built on excellence instead of gender. My father had wanted a Peterson man to lead his company. Instead, he got exactly what he deserved, nothing. And I got exactly what I'd earned, everything. The universe has a funny way of correcting injustice. Sometimes it just needs a patient daughter with excellent documentation skills and zero interest in saving someone from their own stupidity. I walked out of the hospital into Seattle sunshine, my phone already ringing with the next opportunity, the next project, the next proof that competence matters more than chromosomes. Peterson Construction was gone. Sarah Peterson was just getting started.